Hi and welcome to another Carpenter tutoring tutorial, striving to make your work smarter, not harder. Today we are going to talk about checking your work with factoring problems using the FOIL method. So you've been given an equation that you need to factor, but once you get to the end, how do you make sure that your answer is correct other than waiting for feedback on a test or on your homework? Luckily, we have a method that allows us to take our factor and turn it back into the starting equation so you can double check that everything matches and you know that you did your work correctly. Before we can use that method though, we have to get down to our factored form, so let's practice with factoring the equation on the screen. So we start with the equation m squared plus 5n minus 14 equals 0. Before I can jump into factoring, remember we have to make sure our equation is set equal to 0 and that there aren't any greatest common factors to take out from all terms of the equation. I see that both of those conditions are satisfied, so I can move on to thinking about my magic numbers. Magic numbers tells me that I'm looking for two values that multiply to negative 14 and that add to positive 5. Because the product is negative, that tells me I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to the same value as a times c, which in this case is a times negative 14 or negative 14. And those same two values also have to add to the value of b, which in this case is 5. Because my product is negative, I know that the signs for my magic numbers have to be mixed. One is going to be positive and one is going to be negative. Further, because of the sign of b being positive, I can tell that the factor or magic number that is further away from 0 is going to be the positive one. So when I look at my factor pairs, I automatically know that the larger number is going to be the positive one. The smaller number is going to be the negative one. So I can think about factors of 14. That's going to be 1 and 14 and 7 and 2. I know that the larger number in each of those pairs has to be the positive one. So let's go ahead and write this out. We have 1 and 14 and 2 and 7. We said the larger number or the number further away from 0 has to be the positive one, so that means the 1 and the 2 will be negative. And when I add these together, my factor pair of negative 2 and 7 gives me the 5 that we wanted. So I know that these are my magic numbers. Because our a term is 1, we don't have to take any extra steps at this point. We can create our factors right off the bat. That means I'll use my magic numbers and the square root of my first term to create each factor. So the square root of m squared is just m. So that will begin each of my factors. My first magic number was negative 2, so I'll keep that 2 along with its sign as the first value in my factor. And then my next magic number was positive 7. I'll use addition since that magic number is positive, giving me a second factor of m plus 7. Remember that this is all still equal to 0. That's a really important point if we had to go on and solve from this point. But we have succeeded in turning this into factored form, so how do we double check that this actually is factored correctly? Well, we can use the FOIL method. FOIL is a way of multiplying back together every possible combination of these two factors to make sure that we recreate the original equation without missing any multiplication steps. Each of the letters of FOIL stand for a different multiplication combination that we need to do. The F stands for the firsts. This tells us to multiply together the very first term of each of our factors. In our case, this means m times m, which gives us m squared. The O stands for outers, using the very first and very last term in all of our factors. In our situation, this means multiplying m times 7, which gives us 7m. The I stands for inners, using the two innermost terms of our factors. In our situation, that would be the negative 2 and the m. When I multiply these together, I get negative 2m. And finally, the L stands for lasts. This is using the last term or the regular number of each factor and multiplying them together. In our case, this will be negative 2 times 7, which gives us negative 14. Now that I have all of these values, I can bring them together into a single equation where they are added together, accounting for any negatives that we may have had in our answers as well. So I have m squared plus 7m minus 2m, and again I'm using a minus sign here because our multiplication answer was negative 2m, and minus 14. And remember that this is all still equal to 0. The final step that I can take is to combine like terms. I see that I have two terms that both end with m, so I can add their coefficients together. So 7 minus 2 takes me to 5m, which turns our equation into m squared plus 5m minus 14 equals 0. When I compare my FOILed equation to our original starting point, I can see that they match exactly, and that tells me with certainty that I have factored this equation correctly by generating the factors m minus 2 and m plus 7. Hopefully this helps in double checking your work. This will work for any polynomial where you have just two factors. You can also continue to double check your work if you have more factors from that, but we're going to cover that in a different video. Hope this helped. Good luck with your homework and tackling any math problems that are thrown your way. Thanks for spending part of your day with me. Make sure to leave a comment and let me know if there are any other topics you'd like me to cover, and otherwise, I'll catch you next time.